it's foolish for us to require patriotism of people that are actively rejected by their own country. And this country has got a long and illustrious history of rejecting its own.
I think we have a certain mentality, maybe a colonialist mentality that we've had as African people, that it has damaged us so much to an extent that it has now been transferred from one generation to another. Welcome to yet another episode of the Leadership Lab Africa with Vera Tantupuli. Today I'm with a renowned lawyer, a guy who is attracted to truth. And some people can mistake that as cockiness. But I think he's going to explain himself. But he's not here as a lawyer. He has worked at the intersection of constitutionalism, politics, maybe public policy. But we got him here today because he's a solid son of the great Republic of Malawi. This person is none other than Kumbo Bonzo Soko. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Program, Mr.
At least you remembered my middle name. A lot of people.
Yeah, Bonzo. What does Bonzo mean?
Now, my father was called Bonzo. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So Bonzo Soko. So it was like a clan name?
No, it was his first name, actually. Yeah, his mom called him Bonzo. Yeah. Maybe it was skinny. I think he might have been very skinny.
So it's actually an English name.
Bonzo. Okay, yeah. Maybe it derives from bones. Okay. Skinny, but yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
So thank you very much for accepting.
Thank you for having me.
Invitation. First off, I wanted to talk about why did you become a lawyer? Did you have any lawyer mentors growing up?
No, I didn't. I was running away from business numeracy. So at the Polytechnic, the first year of training, I was selected to read for a Bachelor of Commerce degree. And we had.
I think you were going to be a smart accountant.
Yeah, maybe, but I was I was struggling in things, accounting and mathematical, and I said, this is too torrid. If there is an option of me just reading stuff and trying to understand, maybe I'm gonna go through university and have fun at the same time. So yeah, I decided to go to the University of Malawi. And I fell in love with it. I'm glad I made that switch. Yeah.
So you really didn't think about you being a lawyer even when you were growing up in secondary school?
No, I didn't. There was no one who came. Let me tell you something. The first time I had an interaction with a lawyer was when I was arrested in Form 4.
You were arrested?
Yeah.
For what?
Well, there was students were rioting. Yeah, students were rioting, and we happened to be the good ones, all right? Because we remained in the dorms sleeping, and then the police just lobbed the tear gas canister inside the rooms, and when we were fleeing, they just grabbed us, charged us with some very funny offenses. So the school said we're in the middle of writing MANEB exams, the final exams, and then the school said, these ones, whoever's been arrested was involved in these violent acts. They're not going to sit for
exactly.
Yeah. And I think I had 2 or 3 papers remaining. So we needed a lawyer to intervene. And
who came?
Yeah, it was Mr. Mwase. Later on, he became Justice Mwase. He passed on. But he's the one who took up those, accepted the instructions, took up that matter, went to court, obtained an injunction compelling Prezi Boys to allow us.
And you sat for that exam?
I sat for those exams, got selected to University of Malawi.
Oh, really? And you never saw that case again? They withdrew?
Yeah, I mean, they withdrew the charges. I mean, they didn't have good evidence, I guess. Yeah, sure.
So for me, I want to believe that introduced you now to the world of law.
No. Because I didn't even meet Mr. Mwase. I saw him. I remember I was sitting in a car and he was running down the steps of the High Court and giving my parents a copy of the court order, and then we dashed to Rumpi to write the exams.
So they got you from Rumpi and then they took you somewhere else?
Yeah, because management of Prezi Boys said these violent kids are not allowed to be on campus.
Okay.
Yeah, so we were chased out of the campus, and I was operating from Rumpi. When the court order was obtained, we had to dash back to Prezi so that we could sit for the exam.
Wow, that must have been hectic.
Sure.
So I want to bring it a little bit closer home now, where we're talking about the issue that I wanted us to talk about, Malawi's development agenda and all of that. Maybe we'll talk a little bit about the legal issues. But you know, Professor Winford Masanjara,
Yes.
he's an economist. I really respect that guy. I've
Yeah.
worked with him quite closely, both in government, but also when he was at Chancellor College.
Yeah.
So he often argues to say the economic policies, as well as our implementation of our programs and all of that, especially at government level, is heavily contingent on the political realities and rather than technical issues. So we have technical plans that don't really marry they don't really have much to say as to how we are going to implement or execute economic policies and strategies, meaning that the primacy of politics cannot really be delinked from development. To what extent do you think that is true? Do you think that maybe we have placed politics at this, or it is now becoming a barrier to development or to taking Malawi where it's supposed to go?
Yeah, I think that diagnosis on the part of the prof is spot on. You know, we in Malawi we are emerging from elections or in the middle of elections or just getting into elections. You know, the politicking never stops. So I think when you look at the developmental agenda, it's really designed with the next poll in mind. So there's a lot of short-termism that you see, and a lot of programming that is designed to appeal to the biggest numbers of of voters. If you look at the commentaries around things like what do they call it now? I don't know, the fertilizer subsidy. I don't know what it's called now. You know, almost every administration comes in and then
different name.
I don't know why. You know, you politicians, you love names, you love changing names of things, and not the substance. You know, I really wish we focus more on the substance rather than the names. You know, NIF is now MEDEF. I don't know what has changed, but
it used to be MEDEF.
Yeah, and then NIF, then it's MEDEF. Yeah, I'm sure that if another administration was to come in, they would change it to something else. But anyway, I digressed. The point I was making was the AIP or the FISIP, whatever you name it now has. A lot of people have said that this is just a drain on public resources. If you look at the return, on investment, it's almost non-existent. Yes, maybe it makes a few connected people rich because they're getting these contracts to supply fertilizer, to move the products from the market to the farmers. Never mind that you'll be delivering this fertilizer after the rains have gone. And the maize has already tasseled. But the point is, the reason why they cannot kill that program is because I mean, what are they going to go and sell to the voter, right? So you do have a lot of programming that is really doesn't make any kind of sense. But you do have a politician who wants to be recruited again, into.
Other people have argued to say we're implementing what is called patronage with the budget.
Makes sense, yes.
Patronage with the budget. Because political economy scholars, they argue that good economics makes for good politics and vice versa. But oftentimes, I think what's on the ground, which is what you're explaining, is that some economic decisions, for example, how do we reform AIP? Because even world economies that are doing well, they have subsidies. But so how do we reform the subsidies that we are implementing at the moment to ensure that everyone is happy, at least most people are happy, but at the same time, they're also making political sense. So political decisions that would also make economic sense. I think that balance, is it possible for us to achieve that balance?
The difficulty you face in Malawi is that the middle class is too lean. I've had debates with economists as to whether in Malawi the middle class exists at all. You seem to have a big chunk of people that are spectacularly poor, and then a tiny cabal of people that are ultra wealthy, like and then maybe in between you may have just a slice, a really thin slice of what you would call the middle class. So when you say the saying that good economics equals good politics, I think that works in a country that has got a sizable middle class that is able to influence the content of policy. All right. Here in Malawi, when it comes to policy, I think the so-called middle class gets ignored.
Yeah.
Because they're not a significant voting bloc.
At the
So
top, we can even argue that they don't go to vote.
you see, Yeah.
They may
yeah.
not
So
vote.
if you have, for instance, a politician who has got a constituency that has got part of Area 12 and Kauma, a clever politician who completely ignore the people in
Area
Area 12, right? Because they're like, okay, these are
They want to do already.
and they'll not come out to vote. So they'll go and focus where the numbers are, you see. So here, good economics equals good politics, maybe, but the good economics, the politician is looking at the numbers of people that are actually going to vote. So it's politics of warfare state. It's politics of subsidizing everything.
Yeah.
Is politics of freebies. Which
So-
it's
So for me, I would really want to talk about this to say we have that issue that you're talking about, the lean middle class, but also we are endowed with natural resources. We have arable land, we have fresh water, we have the minerals, we have all of that, and we also have a young population. 60% of our population, or maybe less than that, have under the age of 35. That's a poor, it's a powerful demographic statistic.
Yeah.
Okay, how does a country that has all of that be one of the poorest in the world? How is that possible?
So you're not cooking anything. If you don't get busy in the kitchen, you can't produce a meal.
Okay.
You see, the Malawi needs to realize that development is deliberate and intentional.
Mhm.
All right. Somehow, you see, we do have people that think that things are going to happen by praying and hoping and I've got nothing. I've got nothing against prayer. I pray myself, right? But one of the places that really I think shows what human enterprise can achieve is Dubai.
Yeah.
Because if you see where that desert, that ugly desert was couple of decades ago, and where they are now, when you see the mega structures that they have, it's a testament to the power of vision and being deliberate about moving yourself from where you are to where you need to be.
Yeah.
All right. Now, if you see what is happening now, for instance, and ask, okay, where exactly is it that we're being led to, right? Like, what's the vision? How accurately has it been defined? Okay, I don't want to preach, but the scripture talks about state your vision, all right?
Habakkuk.
Define it, accentuate it,
Put it on the wall.
exactly, highlight it. This is where we are going as a people. So you can talk about all these resources we have. We've got young people, we've got land, we've got this. But if you don't know what to do with those, it's like someone who's got food in the kitchen, but you haven't gotten busy. You'll starve.
It's like we are wasting the potential that we have.
Absolutely.
So you gave an example of Dubai, but also I like the story of Singapore.
Yeah.
I've read from the past prime minister. He wrote his bio, and I read it. I thought I was fascinated by it because he said Singapore didn't have any minerals, but they did exactly what you have just said. To say they understood where they wanted to go, and they created a framework, and they had the entire citizenry rallying behind.
Yeah.
So, for example, here we have. By the way, you're talking about not having a vision. We do have a vision. The Malawi 2063. I want to believe that it's a very nice document. It clearly articulates, but I think to what extent that is now translated to everyday life.
So
Because we sat down as a people and said, this is how we want to go. This is where we want to go. We said by 2030, we want to be a middle income economy. This is 2026. I don't know to what extent we are achieving this. I don't know if we even have a dashboard that is showing us where we are in terms of maybe education, mining, or I don't know, energy. I don't know where we're at. But we're supposed to be following that. But we have all that Singapore didn't have. What is that one thing that you think Singapore or Dubai or Qatar had that we don't, that maybe we can?
So let me take it from there. Was that we or it was the Chakwera administration? Now you see,
it was the government. The government is a going concern.
Where is it?
Yes.
So let me tell you this. That's the controversy of binding future generations to a particular developmental blueprint.
Yeah.
Okay. Uh, because every administration should have the liberty, for me, to come and articulate its policy priorities. When you they
But we have 5 year
the,
terms.
the 20,
Mr.
2063.
We have 5 year terms. So you have this government that comes in for 5 years and
Yeah.
then there's no guarantee that they're going to continue. And then another government comes and they bring in their
I'm not saying that there is anything wrong with long-term planning. Actually, that's what we need. The point I am making is that I don't get the sense that the new administration has embraced 2063 as their own thing that they need to run. Okay, when they came in, maybe understandably so, they defined their own priorities, and the economy was in a mess. So
But the 2063 agenda didn't start with the Chakwera administration; it started way before.
in terms of formulation, but I think it
Yeah.
was finalized and launched by
Yes,
the
exactly.
Chakwera administration. Right?
Yes.
I'll give you an example. If you rewind a little, okay, we had before
Vision 2020.
we had Vision 2020, that was Muruzi, and then after he had left, I think Bingo had the Malawi Growth and Development Strategy.
MTDS 1, 2, 3.
Yeah. But you see, the difference between that particular developmental blueprint and what we now have, the situation that we now have, was that Bingo was actually intimately involved in this development.
Yeah.
Okay. So he owned it. He owned that developmental vision, right? That this is my thing. This is my thing. So for me, it doesn't really matter if these guys were to tweak the 2063 a little bit, all right? But what you need is a very accentuated vision of where the leadership thinks that the country ought to go. You know,
so it
is a leadership issue. It is a leadership issue. So you can't have you can't have this kind of blueprints. But if there is no buy-in from those that are coming after those that actually crafted them, then you do have a problem.
Okay. So here you say two things here.
Yeah.
In terms of number one, you're having the citizenry rally behind a plan. But two, times are moving, times are changing.
Yeah.
Okay. So maybe what was obtaining 5-10 years ago is cannot be contained now.
Mhm.
Okay. And you can't be bound by something that is no longer working.
Yes.
I'm hearing you say those things.
Okay.
But also, we have spoken about having a young population.
Yes.
So the young people, maybe they want something else different, or what is happening?
What I'm saying is, at any given point in time, the leadership should be able to articulate with clarity where it is that they're taking the nation to.
Okay.
Whether that is going to be located within 2063 or whether they are bold enough to say that this is something
we abandoned
or we have tweaked it, we are declaring or adopting new priorities. But you cannot be fuzzy, you cannot be hazy, you cannot be obscure about where you go. Vision is super, super important, not just for the life of a human being, but for the life of a community, for the life of a nation. So I was answering your question to say, what is it that is going to make us harness all this potential and resources that we have? And it must start with the accuracy with which we define the vision, where it is that we see ourselves
responsible for doing.
And of course, it starts with the leadership. Okay. It starts with the leadership, but the president can't do it alone. All right. So this is something that everyone should buy into. Leadership at all levels. At ministry levels, at technocratic level, civil society level. Everyone should buy into that.
It must be extremely clear. This is where we are.
Absolutely.
And for me, as a person, I have a legal firm. Within our firm, this is our business.
This is absolutely
what we are doing. And I don't think we have reached those.
No, we have. No, I don't think we have. Because there was a time. There was a time actually. I was interacting with some ministers and I said, I've absolutely no doubt that if I was to challenge these guys and say, how many of you have read
the
and most of them would say, well,
yeah.
Even if you were to ask now, I mean,
with how many have read?
How many of you have read the Malawi?
So you've no business. If you have not read it yourself, you have no business talking about it or making other people write.
So exactly, yeah. So that's really because you cannot champion that which you've not understood. You need to have an understanding of what it is that Yeah.
I have read the MW 2063 and it has, okay, so you have a population that over 70% are poor, what you were saying at the beginning. Now, this is the problem, that the people that now have understood, because it is in chunks, there's education, there's what, and then we have stakeholders of every sector. Okay, to what extent are they now translating those to the minutest, level of understanding, so that we know for us to get the, for example, it says for every Malawian to achieve at least 12 years of schooling. Okay, so at least we know this 12 years of schooling very much at least from 4.
Yeah.
All right. But to what extent that was is that being inculcated in the people? Because now we have 5,000 girls aged between 10 to 19 in Kasungu alone falling pregnant from January to May.
Okay, that's sad.
And that's just Kasungu, but and I want to believe that number may be triple. You know why? Because I think the 5,000 is the one that the health authorities were able to report.
Yeah, sure.
But other girls may have aborted, other girls may not have gone to the hospital, and Njinji has recorded 4,000. So you can understand, if we had every statistics for all the 28 districts, be in trouble.
Yeah.
So for me, it means therefore we are already reducing from that number. Those girls that are going to give birth now, for them to go back to school, you know how it is. After they've given birth now, they are already living in villages. They don't see anyone. They have no role models and all of that. So it is a very big problem.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Do you think that's a lost cause? What do we do now? Is it a lost cause? We abandon all our plans and then we restart. What do we do?
Well, I mean, the thing is, we do have a leadership that has got a popular mandate, and we really maybe have to wait for it to articulate that particular vision. It's just that the point I was making is that I don't get the sense that new dawns in town have really embraced what you guys started, and maybe they've got their own practice. But
I would disagree with you a little bit on that one.
Okay.
Because when the MW 63 was being established or developed, the law was even changed to I think the political parties to ensure that your manifestos, how you're going to. I think that was one of the ways of ensuring that everyone was in line, or was in sync with the development agenda.
Which I actually don't think is constitutionally sound. That I've always argued that you cannot bind a people to a particular developmental agenda or framework. Okay, people, part of a political self-determination is that the voters should be able to reject a particular course of action that the leaders have put them on, and say, we don't like this, so we want something different. So if you say that everyone else must subscribe to this particular kind of thinking, what if I want to rise up and say, this is rubbish?
Yeah.
Okay, this is rubbish. And if I go to the people and sell that, they should be able to agree with me, and to demonstrate the fragility of that kind of thinking. That law can be undone by Parliament tomorrow.
Okay.
So
I'm now I'm lost, because then what do we do? Because I really want us to start having that kind of conversation in terms of we have the capacity to number one, change the law if we wanted to change the law if it's not working for us. But number two is to say, because what I'm hearing you say, you are talking of, you say you're not disagreeing with having a long-term vision.
No.
But you are disagreeing with now binding a people to a particular way of thinking, when sometimes you see that they're working.
You see, the problem is, if you bind them to a particular kind of thinking, you're going to have a leadership that is not enthusiastic about that particular policy direction. And if there's
they will not accentuate it.
Exactly. So if there is exactly, you see, so if there is no enthusiasm from the top, then that particular policy direction is doomed. So for me, I am saying that for a country to move forward, you need the leadership to be able to articulate where that. By the way, that's what elections are all about. You go to the electorate and say, if you elect me president,
this is what we're going to.
This is what we're going to do. This is how we plan to change Malawi. We're going to take it from here to there. All right. Now, if they think that for them to implement their agenda that they have sold to the people successfully, by the way, it requires them to abandon, this thinking that is set out in some document, that was lavishly adopted at some conference center. They should have the liberty to do so. for me, it doesn't matter if they are bold enough to say that we are ripping this document apart, but the leadership doesn't have the luxury of being opaque about their vision. They must articulate it with clarity.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the articulation of clarity of a vision, for me, it starts with you understanding that this may work. And maybe you're taking a blueprint from somewhere else, whatever, but having that understanding that it may work. Okay. Maybe tried and tested.
Yeah.
So you have a 5-year mandate. When do you get to do that? Because I've been in government. It is not easy to you just don't do things in a week. It's a process that has to work, and then the buy-in and I don't know your own thoughts in terms of how you think that can be done. So we go to a referendum, for example. If the government was to say, I want to do this, how do you think they can do it?
Well, everyone who runs for public office in Malawi know that they've got a 5-year term to work with.
We have 5-year terms.
So why is that being put forward as an excuse? Because you know beforehand that I've got a 5-year term.
Yeah.
All right. Whatever it is that I'm promising people, I need to deliver within 5 years. Because you do not have a guaranteed second term. Right? The only thing that is guaranteed.
In other words, when a leader is coming to us for election, they're coming for campaign. They need to tell us exactly what they're going to do
in 5 years.
In 5 years.
Yes.
In education, this is what we do. So how do we make that now legally binding? Because then you these are your thoughts. You are bonzo. You're coming to my village and you're preaching to me. We're going to do this. We're going to do this. Now you go into government. You just
So that's a good question. I mean, there are some legal scholars that have written about the enforceability of political promises, but I think that those are the kind of things that fall into commitments sui generis. Okay, so commitments that fall into their own category, unique category. Because things that are said at a political podium, how do you enforce them? If I promise you that if you elect me president, you're going to be buying fertilizer at 10,000 kwacha, right? How do I know that that's the reason why people voted for me? People would have voted for me because I'm tall.
you look good on a photo.
Yeah, because they think I'm handsome. Could be a bunch of other reasons that have motivated them. So, and how exactly are you going to enforce? Which tribunal is it going to hold a politician to that particular promise? So the way in which the political bargain gets enforced is at the ballot. If the people get to deliver their verdict after 5 years, they'll be like, Madam Vera, no, we haven't liked how you've served us as a member of parliament. That's a door. Go home and rest. So I don't really think that there is any system in the world that has come up with anything better. People always have their say when the next election comes along.
So, in other words, what you're saying is that people should just wait for another election because we don't have the enforceability of the promises. There's no law that now binds people to say, you say this, you have to implement it. And then we don't have a monitoring and evaluation framework to check what you say and what you're doing on the ground until we wait for the next 5 years until we go to the ballot. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You see, the kind of governance setup that we have splits responsibilities. The governors have got a specific set of responsibilities. The governed also have got a specific set of responsibilities. The governed are the monitoring and evaluation officers, right? They need to hold their governors to account. And yes, there are all sorts of accountability mechanisms, but the ultimate one is where you go and voice your disaffection by kicking them out and say, so that's why in Malawi, but I'm told we do have one of the highest turnover rates in terms of our politicians.
Yeah, over 70%.
You see, because our people are able to say, we don't like this guy. He promised quite a lot, but he hasn't delivered nada. So come the next election, show him the door.
And then you usher in another one that will also have his own set of promises.
Yeah, and they don't,
put him out, and then
unfortunately for us, time doesn't stop. Right? Time is
moving.
Yeah.
But now, we have, like I say, over 60% of our population is under the age of 35. And
Yes.
young people are coming. Now, remember our science, standard 5, at
Yeah.
least from my primary school, Vamlamba, the science teacher taught us that energy can never be lost or created.
Yeah.
It just moves from one form
To the other. Mm-hmm.
Now, there's a wave of energy that is in the young people that are coming up now that are totally different from the way you and me were.
Yeah.
And this energy.
What are you saying? We're very old?
We are very old, but that we were raised differently. We didn't have technology, we didn't have internet and all of that. They have they're tech savvy, they have access to information that has been democratized because of the internet and the technology. We never had that. Remember, Chancellor College, to take us 1 hour to send one email. Remember, I don't know if you found that as well. But we went through that. Now it's totally different from, I can even see that in my own children as well. Now, I don't know if we are ready. We have institutions in place to harness that kind of energy that is coming from here as a country at the moment.
Institutions, I'm not sure, and I'm not sure whether you harness that kind of energy through institutions. For me, I think what is the missing link are opportunities to put our vibrant young population to work.
Yes.
To make sure that
you still need institutions and infrastructure for that.
You think so? Maybe because you see, this kind of institutional thinking perhaps is what is part of the problem.
Okay.
We kind of boxes people into thinking that for me to contribute, I need an office, I need a necktie, I need a desk, maybe that's not entirely the way to go about it, but we need to just maybe reimagine the economic space, make sure that opportunities are available to our young people. You see what is happening now. The crisis in South Africa, there's xenophobia, or as Malema likes to call it, Afrophobic violence that we've seen. And every time I think about South Africa, or indeed Europe, or indeed wherever else, that Israel, where we dispatch the best of our talent, it's sad, isn't it? Because there was a time when Africa was robbed of its
talent,
to the slave trade, and our youngest and strongest members of society went and built Western economies and empire. I mean, even today, you see the results of what these guys did. Today, and that's what maybe South Africans don't realize, that they're getting a premium product on the cheap, because there are a lot of these, and some of the reports that have come out of, Cape Town, where they've got all these farms. There's no one who to pick the fruits and cut the sugar cane and stuff like that. So we are dispatching the best of our human resources into foreign economies to invest in there, all right, and contribute. Absolutely, and
we're getting nothing out of it.
See.
Because they are being paid cheaply, and they're not remitting anything.
So for me, why is it that we're not having sugarcane, farms here that these guys can work in?
We do, but how much can they get? Because maybe even if we're talking about that being low, they're lowly paid when they go there. But if you compare it to how much they would be paid if they are working at a sugarcane farm here, that was still
but you see, because if you do talk to a law or whoever, they'll tell you that, look, there are certain economic realities that we also must grapple with, right? This is how much we can sell our sugar. So if we can sell it for this law, how do you expect us to have wages that are this high? All right.
Is that so economic misconception? Or
it's not an economic
because I heard that sometimes you can find our sugar cheaply in other countries. Our Illovo sugar will be sold cheaply in another country when it's a little bit higher here.
Is it?
How do you?
I think some of it may be down to smuggling, but I'm purely speculating here.
Okay.
But my point is, it should be possible for us, because you see, economic value can be created. All right, economic value can be created if you bring in someone into the economic space and they begin to work and they're earning something. All right, that's an economic power that you've created. This person becomes a consumer. They're earning a little salary here, and then they have to buy sweet potatoes. So it has that ripple effect. Okay, it has that ripple effect. If we just really had that credit of vision that we want to change our story, so that our young men and women don't have to travel to South Africa to work, but they have to be here. And then, yes, they may not be, in the interim, maybe they will not be earning as much as they earn in SA. But over time, I am sure that, as more and more people are active in our economic space and our economy grows, it will have capacity to reward people even better. But it's sad that we are exporting the best talent that we have to invest in foreign economies.
I was in the UK. I think France one time before I even became a minister, and I went to school.
Yeah.
In the Netherlands actually, and I went to a coffee shop, and there was this guy from an African country that was serving me coffee, and I saw how I heard him speak, and I was like, "You seem to be educated." He said, "I'm actually a doctor, a medical doctor." And he pulled out his ID and called medical doctor. Like, why are you here? You're working in a coffee shop, serving coffee. Says this is the only job I can manage. I want to talk about that a little bit because I think we have a certain mentality, maybe a colonialist mentality that we've had as African people, that it has damaged us so much to an extent that it has now been transferred from one generation to another. There used to be a generation of maybe our parents that went outside and they had opportunities. If they were doctors, they would work as doctors. They are architects, engineers, and all that. And then they would remit something home, build houses and all that. And even eventually they came to settle after their retirement. Those they gave pressure to a certain kind of generation. So in the 80s and the 90s, that was also going. But things had flipped. And so now this is the generation that has gone there. Now you're a medical doctor and you know how much it takes for us to train a doctor. They're going there and then they're working as a waiter, waitress in a coffee shop. I think it's ridiculous. So I believe that young people think that their opportunities also migrated. So they are following the migrated opportunities. So there's low productivity, not just in Malawi, but in a lot of African countries. Because if you sit with young people in Kenya, they'll tell you the same thing. In Zambia, they will also complain about the same thing. In Zimbabwe, they will also complain about the same thing. What is wrong with us? If we can produce there, why can't we be producing back home? What is happening?
It's okay. So I'm not trying to be a simpleton in respect of a complicated, subject matter. I think migration is quite complex because people migrate for a gazillion reasons. Okay, but we also need to ask ourselves some very tough questions as a people, right? You see, a graduate here, there are certain kind of jobs that he would not want to do them here in Malawi. All right? But they'll do those jobs in England. All right. In England, they'll not even complain. They will do. I don't want to mention those jobs because I don't want to be misunderstood. But they'll be picky and choosy and say,
they want to be a manager.
Yeah. So because of that, I would rather be staying home and you're burdening your parents. But if you're out there, even if it's not a job you were trained for, if you are economically active, I think that's a contribution you're making. So not to absolve African leaders of the huge responsibility they have, okay, to create a space where opportunities can thrive for their people, but at the same time also it's a mindset issue. At the end of the day, it's a personal decision. I always tell people that I've never, not even for once, thought of working outside the country. But this is me. I mean, it doesn't mean that maybe I wouldn't have made better money outside, but I just thought that this is home. This is where I want to work.
It's where I belong.
So it's also a mindset issue. People, everyone wants to be part of a society that is functional and working. What we forget is that at the back of that functionality are centuries of investment that has been made by the people and others that have come in. If everyone is fleeing their own home countries, there is no one who is investing in those societies to make them better. So at the end of the day, because you are leaving, you are abandoning your fort. You are
invaded.
You see, And actually, what's going to happen is the odds for the next generation are even going to be worse because the best have actually left. So if our brightest sons and daughters have left, they've gone to Zambia, South Africa,
and not doing what they were trained to do.
You see, we are guaranteeing almost that this particular country 30, 40 years from now is not going to be significantly better than it is now.
Yeah.
All right. And if every talent that this country has produced was to be here, then, but of course, it also means that we need to look ourselves in the mirror and be honest with ourselves, all right? Because here, for instance, if you are a talent, then people are going to be asking, okay, where is he from?
Mhm.
Yeah. Where is he from? Before they deploy you, yeah, it's okay. So
From the north.
yeah, he doesn't come from our region. He doesn't come from our tribe. He doesn't worship.
Do you think that's a problem?
Of course, it is a problem. It
Nepotism.
is. It is. We're still primitive in our thinking here. Look, I've nothing against culture. I'm a huge cultural enthusiast.
About that today. Now he's a council.
Yes,
The chief. His Majesty.
I always say there is nothing wrong with culture. Culture, tribes.
No, culture is our place of power.
Yeah, absolutely. Our ethnic groups only become a problem when we use them as a basis for excluding people. Okay, that becomes a problem when you say, okay, where are you from? You're Lomwe. Oh, okay, stay out. Okay. Yeah, this is Wukuzani. This is Alomwe. Panoba is in Zaje, and you are Lomwe out. That becomes a problem. That becomes a problem. So we also, as we're talking about the need for people to be a little more resilient, long suffering, and be here, be patriotic, and I mean, it's foolish for us to require patriotism of people that are actively rejected by their own country, and this country has got a long and illustrious history of rejecting its own. On very flimsy reasons. Oh, you don't look like us. You don't speak like us. So therefore, we're going to close the opportunities. Of course, people want to go where they're valued. Yeah. So it's a
when you speak about rejection, I think it's about you now not behaving the way everybody else behaves. So we have classified people. You're a Malawian is supposed to be doing this, but why can't that be positive? Because I know Malawi. I find that very disturbing. Yeah. Malawi has to be something that is always negative. Why can't it be Malawi where there's a resilience, it's hard work, and
Yeah, absolutely. Our definition of Malawi must be positive. But the point I was making was if we want people to stay in this country, make a contribution to Malawi, you see, it's a bargain. Yeah. Okay, it's a bargain. In return, the country must commit to treating its sons and daughters better.
Yeah. While we're on that subject, I would want to talk about, you are a trained lawyer. You went to the college that God loves the most.
I'm told.
So, do you think, to an extent, we are training for our needs?
That's an interesting one.
Yeah, because why? Okay, when I was Minister of Labor, I also learned that a person that is not actively looking for employment cannot be classified as unemployed.
Okay.
Okay. So maybe they just don't want to work.
Yeah.
So you cannot put them as if we have 10,000 people that don't have jobs, you cannot say he's jobless because he's not actively looking for employment. So the only people that can be classified as people that are actively looking for employment are the ones that they will be sending applications and all of that. So you would see that there's so many people that, because now if you look at, I don't know where your office is now, Area 43 or
43.
There's almost every month or 2 months there's a graduation at BICC.
Yeah.
Or several other places in the country.
Yeah.
So plus or minus 300, 500,000 young people are graduating.
Some of those units are not proper units.
Yes, they're not proper units. I know you have that subject. We are going to talk about that. So okay, hypothetically, if we are graduating 500,000 people every single year, how many jobs are we producing? And in what sectors? And what are we graduating people in? What are they graduating in? Because for me, so you have the disputed MW 2063 as far as you are concerned, but you have a vision of a country and then you have people that are being trained that are not mirroring the aspirations of the country.
Mm.
Do you think that is a problem? Do you think we are mistraining? Maybe?
Are we? So ordinarily, now you see again, there's a danger here that I may bring simplicity to something that requires complexity. Um, because to some extent, education is good for its own sake. You know,
Yeah.
Knowledge must be pursued for its own sake.
The knowledge of a human being is a productive
Yeah.
human being.
So enlightenment is something that must be desired and pursued for its own sake, not necessarily because of its utility and a benefit that it gives you, but because it's just good to be enlightened,
Yeah.
right? Holding all other things constant, a nation that is educated is better than one that is not, right? Citizens that are educated are better. So we also must run away from this very transactional relationship with education, that if your school hasn't turned you into a millionaire, then it was wasted education or wasted investment, right? But having said that, there is also a space within which education begins to answer the problems of society.
Yeah.
And we should be able to identify with precision to say what is it that ails us as a people, and how can education provide a solution to that ailment. And if there is a mismatch between what society is grappling with and what we are training people in, then that becomes a problem.
There is that mismatch now.
Well, I think so, because
To the extent that employers are arguing that we are producing people that are unemployable.
what does that mean?
Like they don't. So you'd have a degree, but you don't.
You don't have practical
Your
skills.
employability levels are a little bit on the lower side.
Okay.
So you cannot perform. But now, listen to this. At the leadership lab, we're demystifying what leadership is all about.
Yeah.
Sometimes people think about leadership under the president and cabinet, but we're talking about leadership everywhere. If I come to your firm, there's leadership there. If I go to a market, church, there's leadership everywhere. Which is why I believe that if you're complaining about leadership in a country, that's a reflection of us.
Mhm.
Our leaders are us, because we went to school with them. They just didn't drop from heaven.
Yeah.
To say in an egg, and then they became leaders.
Mm.
We went to school with them. Our children go to the same school, we go to the same church, we go to the same market. Now they become leaders. So they are a reflection of us. So whatever it is that we do as a society is a reflection of what our leadership is supposed to be, which is now it's a whole conversation about how we doing that.
Yeah.
My point there being, we spend a lot of time and a lot of resources training lawyers like yourself.
Yeah.
And then suddenly we just believe that leaders are just going to turn out as good leaders.
Yeah.
We're not investing in building or training our leaders to be good.
Yeah. So
in the same way, where we are saying, someone comes from college and then we believe that because they are trained, then they're an engineer, then somehow they're going to make a very good program manager, or they're going to run this office, somewhat.
Yeah.
But then employers are saying, I would rather get that 65-year-old man who only has a certificate but knows the job. There's that.
Yeah. No, it's I think respectfully speaking, it's intellectual laziness for me.
Intellectual laziness.
Yeah.
Okay.
People just refusing to think. You see, there is no one who is ready from day one. I don't care whether they've been to Harvard or Oxford or any other top uni in the world. A classroom environment is a classroom environment.
Yeah.
The industry is the industry. All right. Krishna Savjani, of Savjani and Co. Once spoke about lawyers graduating from law school and thinking that they are ready, to work as legal practitioners on day one. And he caught some kind of thinking delusion, and I think I agree with him. Said you're completely delusional if you think you're going to be ready on day one.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not possible.
So for me, when you have an employer who says that people are unemployable, I think he's just being intellectually lazy. Right? You need to understand that these are people that are maybe educated, but then they require training. Okay, those aspects are different because you can't have someone who has been educated as a teacher, but if you want to train them as a banker, there is an investment that you must make in them on the job training. Okay, so forget about the theories, but here, this is how we do things. Um, uh, at my level in my profession now, I get to mentor younger lawyers, I'm like, okay, was I at this level?
Mentored myself.
Yeah, so and they have got solid, reasonably solid theoretical grounding, but they have to be trained. You know, and the fact that if I give them an appeal, they will not know what to do doesn't make them unemployable. It just means that they're not trained.
They're not experienced.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the example that this intellectually lazy employer was giving you to say that I would rather employ, you see, people forget that a training is not just acquired in a formal setting or structured setting. If you have someone who has spent, I mean, there are a lot of people that have never, gone to any school to learn photography or to shoot music videos, but they're experts. They know how to handle equipment. Well, because they've been on the ground, they have actually done it.
Yeah.
All right. Similarly, and the legal profession training was not always by way of a bachelor's degree. It was by way of apprenticeship.
Yeah.
Where you just where you just understudied someone senior, experienced, and then they tag you along, and then that's how you became a legal practitioner. So for me, we need to also understand that the university, it doesn't matter how good they are, will never produce products that will be ready
Ready-made.
day one.
Yeah.
Okay, that's why perhaps we need to encourage the kind of trainee program so that people are exposed. They are exposed. Okay, this is how.
And this is what I was talking about, the institutions and the infrastructure. I mean, to make these young people ready, because I want to agree with that, to say we believe Kutimuntu because he's an engineer, Wabanga trained as an engineer at college, then automatically they can work. It's not possible. Because when you're talking about leadership, it's about people management, resource management, and then how the classrooms don't teach you that.
No,
not at all. So real life experiences. If this building were to be on fire, you don't need to have been trained as fire people for us to put out the fire, find help or something like this. So there are some things that you will never learn them in a classroom, but you have to see them. What for me, education does, it just gives you that impetus to think in a different way.
Absolutely.
So that different trades. So how you navigate around issues in the legal profession is not the same way that a bank institution would treat the same thing, or maybe a school, for teachers and all that. Because an economist can also work as a teacher, but they have to be trained. Now I like what they're doing now. They're saying that you cannot teach if you don't have a certificate of teaching. So you need to be a certified teacher. So in spite of whatever it is, because you can train as an engineer, but you have not trained as a teacher. So there are several sufficient conditions that must be satisfied before you can go into a classroom. So I think those are deliberate moves that a country has to make to ensure that we are making our young people ready for the job market.
Yes.
As we are closing, I've seen you are very interested in young people. And I've seen you make your posts about young people, what is happening now, and all of that. What do you think is happening among our young people now? If you were to be asked a question to say, what do you think is happening among young people in Malawi? What are they busy about?
So I think most of them face a future that is uncertain. They're anxious, I think. You just spoke about the significant numbers of graduates that we're churning out, and most of them don't know what
next?
what
After
what
that
the
degree?
what the future holds. I'm not trying to be, pompous or anything. You see, when I was graduating 17 years ago, a law graduate didn't sit home looking for a job. You
Automatic.
you had options. You had options, at least three, four. The public service, at least the legal aid department, is always recruiting. the
Minister of Justice.
Minister of Justice, Attorney General's chambers, DPP's chambers was always recruiting. Minister of Lands was always recruiting. The judiciary always recruiting. But these days, you know, you do have
You have lawyers that are sitting at home.
yeah, just looking for an employment opportunity. So there's a lot of anxiety amongst our young ones to say, okay, what exactly does the future hold? And I think that's not necessarily a very good space to be. Yeah.
So if you were to sit with the leader, whether the president or decision makers in our country, what would you tell them? If you were to say three things that this is how I think we need to shape, because if we are an environment or a nation that is not bringing hope to people are struggling.
Yeah.
My nephew is at Mubas, and he was telling me about how they eat. They buy the chibagijam, soya pieces, and whatever, and where they're staying now. You and I did college where we ate half chicken, we ate the food, fish, a big fish for ourselves. Now the cafeteria is privatized. Hostels, they are privatized, and parents have to cough a lot of money for their children to stay on campus. And now in Zomba, children are staying Kwajika, so, and then they have to go through all of that and then come out, stay 6-7 years of nothing. That is creating anxieties, but also it is forcing young people to engage in other and becoming Indian. So if you were to sit with the people that are making decisions that can do something about that, what would that be? Three things.
Why three? Yeah, I mean, let's. I think for me, let's put them to work. You know, it's a resource. We've already spoken about it. It's a resource. Let's put it to work because if a resource remains unutilized, it's good. It's good as not having any resource at all. You know, we need to put it. We need to put it to work. You know, I think really that's the only thing I can say. That can we find a way of putting this to work? I mean, to be fair, the government is trying. The internship program that has been created. Yeah, it does give people an opportunity of at least acquiring some practical skills. Hopefully, then they can acquire skills that are transferable, right? But also then. I mean, maybe the second thing that I would say is let's invest in more productive areas of the economy, right? So that because if you tell the president that let's put our young ones to work, he's going to ask, okay, where do I put them? Okay, where do I put them? All right, but and yet we are plowing billions and billions of money into non-productive areas of the economy. That's it's
because for me, this is how I understand it. Government at its core does not produce anything.
True.
It cannot, even those factories that you're talking about. So you're talking about now a place for the private sector to come in. So I've always, when I talk about maybe tourism, trade and investments, maybe African continent free trade area, when I talk about those things in the forum, my take is that most times the private sector will say, we want government to do this, maybe wherever there, tax exemptions there and all that, whatever. So government can be making all the big moves, but then the moves of the private sector would not be commensurate with the moves that the government has made. So maybe also the private sector has to come in, but the private sector cannot come in because we also have a very lean private sector.
Yeah.
So if we have now, we invest so much into productivity. So we have more factories that are coming in, more companies and whatever. And I sat with Ntanda Mandu, a progressive young lady. Now she's in the US. She's now into tech. And she was saying, we cannot do AI and technology issues with the way we are now because we have an energy. But at the same time, that's an opportunity for us to invest in. But who can invest in energy?
Yeah, but you see now, so that's where now the issue of plowing our money into productive areas comes into, because yes, the economy, the one that drives it is the private sector. That's the hub of the economy, right? But they need a solid base from which to launch their operations, right? It's incredibly hard to launch anything here. Um, I mean, this guy, this is it Jombe?
Yeah,
I mean, the,
Napoleon.
the the way he has struggled to set up his, and
He's a Malawian. Why must he?
you see, I mean, that's the thing that, and he's actually lucky. I consider him lucky because he does have a voice. He's got a name. So when he raises a voice,
People,
everyone is gonna
yeah.
is gonna rush to his side. But how many smaller unknown Napoleon Zombes are there who are being frustrated?
Yes.
So the government must create an environment where it's easier for people to start enterprises and for those enterprises to thrive. I understand that in entrepreneurship, you can start maybe 10 things, 9 will die. But at the very least, we need to create an environment where those things can thrive. The issue of investing in productive area is still important because we do have, for instance, what do they call it? The public-private partnership commission. For the government to get into some kind of an arrangement, they need to put in money.
Yeah.
Okay, they need to put in money. But for them to put in money, it means that they have to starve some other, and I did some little microeconomics at during my first year of study at the Polytechnic. You pretty much deciding how to allocate resources that are scarce and limited.
Yeah.
So you're deciding, okay, are we going to sink billions of kwachas into a subsidy program year in year out that is not graduating anyone from poverty? That is not, it's. Sorry, I mean, I've
Remember the statement of Professor Masanja. It says the policies, the economic policies would most times be at the mercy of political realities.
I've gone back to, because for me, the AIP is one program I just don't understand, and I think our brilliant economists in the public service know exactly that, but because the space has been captured by political interests, year in year out, we're still doing the very same thing. If that money was, for instance, invested in green
agriculture,
green energy, green energy, so that we add more power to our grid. And if we add more power, then perhaps there'll be more people that will be welding, more people that will be running barbershops, more people that will be doing stuff. I mean, we've got folks that are hardworking. Afuna pige mandasi, but they cannot do so because the energy for it is non-existent. So,
and if we don't, I've been trying to marry these things in my head of late to say, if we don't manage the energy situation, we cannot combat effects of climate change.
You can't,
because what is going to happen is poor people are still going to turn to the environment for survival.
They'll cut down trees so they can
for survival,
so they can produce charcoal.
Girls that have been impregnated at 10, at 12.
Yeah.
They just go to the forest and cut down trees so that they sell firewood,
of course,
so that they can buy salt. That's what's going to happen.
Of course.
So I think for me, what you're saying is that if we could make bold decisions, this is where we want to go. We're going to cut our freebies, the budget by half, and then we invest those resources into productive sectors. And then we see how it goes. Pay at the beginning, but eventually,
you see, the I don't even know how sustainable this is, because there is a realignment that is happening globally, where people are pulling back their resources because they want to spend more on their defense, so they've got less to spend on international aid. The UK, has shrunk its.
Arguing that is a gift, so that we start thinking on our own.
That's it. So every kwacha must be put to the best use. I mean, that's what economics is all about. At least that's what I learned from Mr. Mkwara, and Mr. Tiro taught me in year one at the Polytechnic, that you need to squeeze as much value from your resources as you are able to, right? And really, when you look at the way we invest our money, I don't think that's what drives the policy, and I think that's unfortunate.
No, Mr. Soko, thank you very much for coming to the Leadership Lab today.
Thank you.
I enjoy this discussion.
Yeah, me too.
And I hope that you spare some time to now come and discuss legal issues.
Yeah, legal issues, and we also need to talk about proper unions. I'm passionate about proper unions. We should
asked you that question. I said, we are training the right people. the improper unis that you're talking about,
Yeah.
they are also graduating people.
Yeah, they are
And
graduating.
they are also contributing to that 500,000. And those are the people that would also be screaming, "Would there are no job there?"
Yeah, when
Find out what were you trained in?
So I think that the liberalization of education was a good thing. Our public universities can only absorb so much.
Yeah.
So private universities must be encouraged. But you know,
But the enforcement of standards.
exactly, yeah, exactly. You know, universities in garages and the warehouses.
I've interviewed people before they come into my office and they say, "Oh, I have a degree in this. Where did you learn?" And then they're mentioning a university that I've never heard.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, you give them a simple assignment and they can't do anything.
Yeah. So I think we also need to be honest to ourselves. From 1994, we have steadily abandoned standards as a people. You know, we've become
in a lot of sectors, not just education.
We've become mediocre. We've become average. We've become tepid. We've become lukewarm. And it's just sad to see. You know.
But at some point, we were the best in Africa.
In a lot of sectors.
Doctors.
In a lot of sectors. You know, now we at some point I think we compromised on quality. We convinced ourselves that quality didn't really matter. The language of quality became offensive to people. It is still
asking for too much.
Yeah, it is still offensive
We
now.
need to create a world where those standards are the norm.
Yeah,
Standard expectation, and not you being obnoxious.
you see, when I talk about proper unis, you know, people come after me. They're not happy. You know,
I am happy.
It's just you. Because you've been to one. Okay.
Because I know what the economy would be like if we were to promote the improper units.
Yeah, but
if we let the status quo maintained, I know where this is going.
Yeah, but most people think that when you talk about that, you're being elitist and stuff. But honestly, I don't think there is anyone who would want you see what to test the sincerity of a man. If you were to ask them to say, would you want to be treated by a doctor who came from a Ramshako University? You know, I don't think anyone would say yes.
Yeah.
You know, would you want to be represented by a lawyer who's been to an improper uni? If your life depended on it, if you were on trial for a capital offense, would you want, or you would want a lawyer who's been to a proper university, right? And if the answer is yes to these questions, or no to these questions, why are you comfortable sending your children to these kinds, or you yourselves enrolling in those kind? You know, because for me, you're wasting your time, you're wasting your money, and this one is not going to be you see.
So the cycle continues. So we are putting people into the job market that are not.
Yeah, and you see, so what's going to happen? The crisis that we are now actively incubating is that somehow these people, at some point, they're going to climb, the ladder of the corporate space and the economic sector, and they'll be making decisions which are really informed by the poor standards that they've been. For me, that would be a tragedy.
Yeah.
That's why we need to keep saying as a country that yes, we want more graduates. We want people with diplomas and certificates, and but get them from proper units. So if you're listening to this and you're watching this, go get a degree, but from a proper unit. So at least I've given you your short, eh?
Thank you very much. That's how we end it today. Please hit our socials displayed on your screen. We'll see you next time. Thank you very much.